what's going on, guys? Welcome to episode 7 of Collecting 101. And today we're going to tackle stamps. Now, I really want to talk about the history, popular series, and popular types of stamps you want to be looking for, and as well as the value of your stamps. So let's start out today with history. Alright, so let's go all the way back to the year 1680, when William Docker was the first person to use a hand stamp on a piece of mail. Now, some consider that the first stamp. Me personally, I'm going to go into the 1830s, when between 1835 and 1837, James Chalmers, Lou Rene Cossier, and Rowland Hill all had 3 separate ideas of what we would know as the postage stamp today. Now, I would consider one of those 3 the inventors, and I'm sure there's a debate for each one of them, but I'm not even going to pick one. I'd just say one of those 3 are going to be it, but I'm sure everybody has their own opinion on it. Now, before the postage stamp came about, the postal system was full of corruption and was an absolute mess because the sender of the item didn't have to pay for postage. It was the receiver of the item. So when you received something in the mail, you were responsible for the money. So the sender didn't really have to consider the weight or the size of an item they were sending. And a lot of the times the receiver would either not take the item or take it and not pay for it. So, it was really a money drain on the postal system. But when postage stamps came about, obviously the sender had to start considering how big of an item they were sending and how heavy it was. So, it really obviously saved the post system, or the postal system as we know it today. Now, by May 1st of 1840, the UK introduced the penny black, which was the first adhesive stamp. And it was only 7 days later, on May 8th, that they introduced the 2 penny blue, which was, they both depicted the image of Queen Victoria. Now, the fun fact is that UK is actually the only country the only country that does not put their country name on the stamp. They only put the monarchy head. So kind of a cool little factoid. Now, as the 1840s went on, stamps were spreading worldwide. So much so that by 1843, Switzerland introduced the Zurich 4 and the 6 Rapin, which were their first stamps. Brazil in 1843 introduced the bullseye stamp. Now, it wasn't until 1847 that the U.S. introduced their 5 and 10 cent stamp, which depicted the images of Ben Franklin and George Washington as their first stamps. Now, before 1839, there was over 75 million letters sent. After post stamps came about, by 1850, there was over 350 million letters sent. If you can't tell me that stamps were a game changer, just let the numbers speak for themselves. That is just absolutely amazing. Now, by the 1860s, most countries issued and used stamps because it was such an efficient way to get your packages out. Because to me, stamps just bring an added element of beauty as well to to letters. They've also inspired things like postcards, letter cards, the airmail. There's so many really great things that postage stamps allow us to do that probably might not have happened because it probably would have, there was such a bad business at the time that it probably wouldn't be around today. But the fact of all the things they inspired through stationery, through, like I said, with the postcards and whatnot. Who didn't go on vacation and send in a postcard back to a family member or a friend of where you were at with a little note on the back of everything that's going on. Such an amazing invention. So, like I said, between the 19th and 20th century, that was the most efficient way to send mail. But now we get into the 21st century, and what are we talking about now? You got email, text messaging. Those are seconds. You get, instead of getting a week for a mail to get a letter, you're getting it in seconds. It's just such a more efficient way to do things, and letters and stamps are becoming an antiquated process to get information to people. So, even look at the way you pay your bills, through the phone or online. Not as many people, I know there's still a lot, but there's not as many that are sending it through the mail anymore because it's just not, it's easier process the other way around, sending it through the telephone or over the computer. So, stamps have made it from the 1840s all the way. They're still around now, obviously. People still use stamps. I still use stamps to send packages through eBay and whatnot. It's not that I don't, it's just more, it's not nearly as much as it used to be. So, there's so many really great things to talk about in the popularity part. So let's get on to that. Let's go on to the popularity of stamps. All right, so let's dig deeper into the popularity of stamps. First off, we're going to talk about commemorative stamps. And why not have a little top 5 inside of our Collecting 101 video? So let's give you the top 5 most popular commemorative stamps in the world. First off, at number 5 is wildflowers. And this has over 76.1 million stamps saved. And obviously, as you can tell, just a very nice, beautiful stamp. Now, number 4 on their list, again, very popular, especially right now, would be Star Wars. Now, this has over 80 million saved stamps, and with the popularity from the 70s all the way into the 2020s, I mean, it's, you know, you can't really blame them for being in the top 5. Now, number 3 on the list is Marvel Superheroes. Now, this has over 85 million stamps saved. And with all the movies that just came out and action figures and kids getting really into it, I see why they would bring this out, trying to get younger kids into collecting. I mean, what a great idea. Now, number 2 on the list is the Wonders of America. Now, this has over 87 million saved stamps. And again, just such gorgeous stamps, I could see why they're on the top 5. Now, number 1 shouldn't surprise anybody. Now, this has over 124 million saved stamps. And he was popular in his 50s and 60s, all the way through until now. We still have tons of people coming and collecting this guy. And that would be Elvis. I mean, his stuff transcends decades of, you know, popularity of people that, you know, hold on to his stuff. So being number 1 on the list is not surprising to me at all. All right, so let's get into the definitive stamps. Now, these are, again, just your everyday use stamps that people pick up that have different subject matter. So let's give you some, you know, some of the better definitive stamp series from certain countries. You know, why not? Let's say we have viewers all over the world. So hopefully we can give you guys a little information about, you know, some of the popular stamps in your area. So first, let's start off in Australia with the kangaroo and map. Okay, I mean, I don't have too much to say on them because I'm not a stamp collector, guys, but when I started doing a little bit of research on these definitive ones, these are just really cool stamps I wanted to show you guys. Next up is Canada, where they have the Queen Elizabeth II series, which again, very popular in Canada. In Germany, it's the Germania series. Now, again, not from Germany, but I know a couple of viewers because I've had some you know, comments with them and conversations. So hopefully you guys can educate us in the comment section if you guys are into stamps or if this is stuff that is popular in the area. This is just the information I looked up and seen on them. So now we get to the United States. We have the presidential issued stamps, the Liberty issued stamps, and Americana issued stamps. I know those are 3 popular ones I've heard of from other collectors that people like to collect, so definitely wanted to highlight them in the video. And the last up is the UK is the Wilding series. Now again, not a stamp collector, but I've heard good things about these series, and I know a few collectors that do collect them. So again, just a few breakdowns of different definitive stamps out there to be looking for if you want to turn into a big stamp collection. Now let's talk a little bit about, too, what kind of stamps people collect, like subject matter. So starting off, let's talk about postal history. Now, people like to collect, like we talked about before, like the black pennies or the two blue ones we talked about in the history part. Or Pony Express, like where the Pony Express had certain different markings for their packages. People love collecting that stuff. So really, I look at it as just you're an antique stamp collector, because those to me are just the older stamps that people, you know, want to, you know, hold on to that history, which I am, of course, all for. So another cool one is stamp forgeries. Now, these are counterfeit stamps. They're not originals, but collectors love them because they consider them like a work of art. You know, because how much work had to go into, you know, counterfeiting some of these stamps. I mean, it's kind of turned into like a hobby for these people to collect these pieces that are not legit, but people love them. So the next up is Philately. Oh gosh, it's a stamp collecting. The people that collect stamps, I think it's Philately. Maybe we'll go with that. Philately. Now, now this one right here is more about obviously your air mail. Anything to do with postcards, anything that was in the air, used to mail through the air, that's what people want to collect. So, I mean, this actually brought along the inverted Jenny, which we'll talk about in the value section. It's the most popular stamp out there. There was only 100 stamps out there released, and I think the last one sold for over 1.3 million. So, and this was on the air mail section, I guess, because it was actually used for air mail. So, definitely something you guys want to be on the lookout for. Next up is the Astro Philately. Now, we're going to go with Philately. I believe that's what it is. But it's the Astro. Now, this is what they consider like space related. Now, this is really cool because the astronauts, when they go into space, they actually take up with them stationery, postage, postcards, all these things into space, and then bring them back down and actually sell them, and they call it space mail. Now, how cool is that? You guys can get something that was actually in space, used for postage. I mean, that's so cool. So that's something that's really popular among collectors as well. Now, there's also Youth Philately. Now, youth is pretty much cartoons, comics, anything that brings young people into collecting. So what they're trying to do is put this stuff out there so young kids understand that, hey, stamps are pretty cool to collect. I mean, there's a lot of really nice ones out there. And so they use Marvel, like we talked about earlier, or Star Wars, or Bugs Bunny, or anything like this that's going to attract those young eyes to what they're doing. So yeah, that's a few of the popular stamp series out there. But guys, being stamps are from the 1840s all the way till now. I mean, there's so many more you can delve into, but those are some of the most popular ones that I've come across and heard about, and a few that I didn't know about that I had to do a little research on that I wanted to make sure I bring you guys to. So yeah, all right. So guys, let's get on to value of your stamps. All right, last but not least, let's talk about the value of your stamps. Now, let's get the hard part out of the way first. 98% of the stamps that you collect are only worth their face value. There's just not a lot of value in money and stamps right now. So, you know, it's just one of those hard things. But I had a neighbor of mine who had a huge stamp collection, and he actually just used it for postage. He never got rid of his collection. He just used it for postage. So you'd get a package from him with like 40 stamps on it because he didn't want to throw them away, and they weren't worth anything. So he just used it to mail packages out. So before you throw away your stamp collection, always remember that as well, or to find a collector, obviously. Now, that 98% is, you know, crappy to hear, but there is 1% of those stamps out there that are worth $10 to $100. You know, and I know that's tough to hear, but there is a percentage out there, and you could have some that are worth some good money. Now, that other 1% that we haven't talked about yet is the huge money stamps. We're talking thousands to tens to hundreds of thousands of dollars that these can be worth. So there is money out there. It's just those are percentages we don't like as, you know, as collectors or even resellers, is that 98% are not worth a lot. I mean, if we can get that down to 90 or 80%, that's a little better, but man, that's a lot of your collection that's just going to be face value, not going to, you know, increase in value right now. So definitely always something to consider. But let's talk about what determines the value of your stamp. First off, it's going to be the image on the face of the stamp, the subject matter. You know, that's going to be a big part. Next up is the perforation around the edge of the stamp and where it was attached to the sheet. Third is the monetary value of the stamp. How much is it worth? And the last but not least is the country of origin. Is it from Sweden, the US, you know, wherever? And those four factors are going to be your best determination of what your stamps are worth. Now let's talk about condition. Now you want good centering on a stamp, no discoloration, no tears and no damage, and the gum on the back would need to be intact as well. Now all four of those things are, you know, are going to determine even more value into your stamp. So hopefully those 8 things we just talked about are going to help you determine the value of your stamp. But if not, always try to talk to stamp collectors or even reference books, and online too. I mean, because like we talked about before, there is forgeries out there. So always make sure you have a legit stamp, and then obviously, you know, go through all the avenues you possibly can to determine its value. Now, this is actually my favorite part of the videos, is when I get to tell you guys these crazy, you know, amounts of money that some stamps go for. So let's give you guys a quick top 3. Number 3 is the inverted Jenny. The U.S.'s most rarest stamp. It's just a stamp with the planes upside down. There was only 100 released, last sold for $1.35 million. Number 2 is the Triskelion Yellow. Now, this was actually from Sweden, one of their first stamps issued, and they usually were in blue and green. This one was a botched print in yellow. So the last one of those sold for $2.6 million. And last but not least is the British Guiana. Now, this was actually the rarest stamp in the world and last sold for $9.48 million. Holy cow, that's a lot of money just for a little stamp. So, but don't freak out though. I'm going to show you guys some eBay listings of collections and other stamps you guys can get right online that are going to be a lot cheaper, and it's a good way to start a collection or even add to your collection. You know, because at the end of the day, guys, with that 98%, this is a collector's market. You definitely want to be a collector if you're going to get into this, because right now the money's not there. So my suggestion is to get a good subject matter, you know, even a good country you want to start collecting, or anything that you want to get into, and then go for it. Start collecting them, because I mean, who's to say the stamps won't come back? Honestly, everything goes down and up. We've talked about it in all of our videos. Just because it's down right now doesn't always mean it's going to stay down. So definitely always keep that in mind when you're out collecting, because you know, stamps are really cool. When I make these videos, I really get into some of these things. I'm telling you, it's hard for me not to start collecting Fenton and Roosevelt and stamps and all these other cool things that, you know, once you do a little more research on them, they're just so interesting. So, All right, guys, that's our video on stamps. I mean, we delved into the history, the popularity, the values. Hopefully you guys got some great information out of this. It maybe gives you guys a little more insight to your collections, or maybe once you get started to collect some stamps. I don't know. That's a tough one, but you know, hopefully there's some out there, guys, and hopefully the information you enjoyed. So thank you guys all so much for watching. Give this video a thumbs up. Comment below your adventures in stamp collecting. I have a few stories I've had from stamps as well that I could throw in there too. So yeah, let us know if you do have a stamp collection and what you do collect, you know, because it can be such a great hobby if you want it to be. And then last but not least, subscribe to the channel. You guys got some time. We got some auction videos coming up, some Collecting 101 videos every Tuesday. So hop on there and subscribe to the channel and stay tuned, because next week, episode 8, we're delving into the popular Barbie dolls. As you guys can tell, you know, I probably know a lot about Barbie dolls, which I kind of do know a little bit. So I'm excited to get you guys with Barbie dolls and give you guys all the information on those as well. So thank you guys all so much for watching. And when we talk about collecting, it's always about your memories over money. See you guys later.